Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Whitewater Region Regular Council meeting for Wednesday, January 15th. I'll call this meeting at 3:01, and I'll confirm that we have quorum, realizing the mayor is attending a county council meeting at this time and will be joining us immediately following that meeting, should time exist. So if we could, I'd like to ask if we could just stand and face the flag for the singing of our national anthem, please. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the land acknowledgement, and I'm going to ask Councillor Joey Trim to please read it for us. Thank you.
As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Township of Whitewater Region and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omami-Wanini people. We thank the Omami-Wanini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land for thousands of years.
Thank you very much, Councillor Trim. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, and the recommendation before us is the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the January 15th, 2025 agenda. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore and seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Next is the adoption of the December 4th regular council meeting, and the recommendation before us is the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the December 4th, 2024 minutes. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Trim and Councillor Moore, thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. Next on our agenda is the committees and boards, and at this time I'm just going to ask all of the different councillors if there is anything they would like to add, and I'll start off with Councillor Tabbert, who is the Whitewater Region Public Board Library representative. Anything that you would like to add, Councillor Tabbert?
No, it's all there in the minutes. But I do want to add that we did have a strategic planning meeting, and it was very proactive as to what we want to do with our library. We know that people do enjoy going there, but we need to reach out more to the people.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councillor Bell for the Beachburg Recreation Association. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Trim, do you have something to add?
I just want to ask, if through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Tabbert, if we have a full complement now of board members?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Beachburg Recreation Association minutes, Councillor Bell, anything to add?
No, there's nothing to add.
Or the Beachburg Agriculture Society? Councillor
No, nothing to add.
And you're also Ottawa Valley Cycling.
Same response.
Same response. And Cobden Recreation. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, same.
Same. And Councillor Tabbard, the Muskrat Watershed Council, please.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is this disclosure of interest. At this time, are there any councillors that have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward then. Next on our agenda is a public meeting. And this is something I'm new at, so just bear with me, we'll get through it.
Recommendation that the public meeting convene.
Okay, so we do have a recommendation that the public meeting convenes at 3:07 this afternoon to hear comments and receive information from the public regarding 3 proposed zoning applications to amend the Township of Whitewater Region's zoning bylaw in accordance with the Planning Act. And a motion is posted in the report section for discussion after the public meeting. So at this time...
We should get a mover and second.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Trim and Councillor Bell, thank you.
And then we can turn it right over to you.
And at this time, I will turn it over to our planner, Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So before we begin, I'm just going to read this statement. If any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Whitewater Region before the before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council of the Township of Whitewater Region to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there is reasonable grounds to do so. Under Section 3411 of the Planning Act, if council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 3419 of the Planning Act states that not later than 20 days after giving of notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made written submissions to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. So that, now that we have that formality out of the way, I will move into my first presentation. This is in regards to the zoning amendment D14201 for 19D Moores Beach Road. So this application was submitted by Howard Moore for the property known locally as 19D Moores Beach Road. This application was submitted in order to satisfy, in part, the conditions outlined in the committee-approved consent file, D10221. That application was heard on September 28th of 2023. The condition of the consent required that the zoning amendment be enacted to reduce the minimum lot frontage to 17 meters. So in reviewing this application and all the applications that I'll be discussing today, I consulted with primarily with 3 policy documents. The first one was the provincial policy statement, which encourages the development of healthy, integrated, and viable rural communities, and encourages development in local areas that's appropriate, in rural areas that's appropriate and can be sustained by service levels. The County of Renfrew official plan designates the property in question as waterfront. The intent of that designation is to allow for low-density residential development that preserves the natural character and environment of the area. The official plan also requires that there be a minimum of a 60-meter frontage on new lots that are created in the waterfront designation. For the back lots, so lots that are in the waterfront designation but not directly on the water. Since no new lot was created under the consent, this policy it doesn't apply here, and no official plan amendment is required. The comprehensive zoning bylaw for the township has the property zoned as waterfront vicinity. And this zone allows for a mix of residential and non-resident and compatible non-residential uses that maintain the character and the environment and the quality of the waterfront. The bylaw also stipulates that lots in this area will have a minimum frontage of 45 meters, which the present application is seeking to reduce to 17 meters. So the effect of this application here will be to transfer the ownership of the right-of-way that is on 19, well, that will now be a part of 19D Moores Beach Road, and will result in the 17-meter frontage. So in terms of how this application meets the strategic departmental work plan, it continues to, well, we as a team continue to support the development and growth of the community. Regarding engagement, this application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act to both internally as well as to external agencies and neighboring properties. And no concerns were received at the time of writing this report. In terms of financial implications, following the approval of this zoning bylaw and the removal of the conditions on the severance, the property may be re-evaluated by MPAC, which may result in increased tax revenue for the township. And in terms of next steps, if council decides to vote on this matter later, then there would be an appeal period, and then we would need to advise the applicant of the outcome of the decision. Okay, so that's the first one. I'll just move straight into the next one, or do we? Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I think we'll go through one at a time, if I may.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Planner Alex. So at this time, I would like to see if if the applicant is here, and if they would like to speak on their application. Thank you very much. Oh, you don't need to speak? Okay, very good. Do we have any comments from the public regarding this application? Thank you, seeing none. And does council have any questions? Councillor Trim.
Just to remind council that when this came before the Committee of Adjustment in September, and the members discussed it, it was the unanimous decision of that committee that this should be go forward for a zoning amendment because it did make a lot of sense to do this. So I just want council to remember that the committee was fully in favor of this consent application. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment, Councillor Trim. Seeing nothing on that, then we will move on to the second one then, if I may, Planner Alex. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is zoning amendment application D14202. Pardon me, the present application was submitted by Barry Gold on behalf of himself and several members of the Gould family for the property known locally as 1654 Queens Line. The subject lands, the property was formerly known as 1654 Queens Line. It's now been severed from the farm. So the lands in question are the lands surrounding the former residence. 1954. So this is a 78 hectare lot that is used for agricultural purposes and has permanent and intermittent creeks. So the purpose of this application is to restrict future residential development, and we would be rezoning the application to agricultural exception number 77. And this application was submitted as a part of a condition for the consent to sever the surplus farm dwelling. So again, I refer to three main policy documents. The provincial policy statement encourages healthy and integrated and viable rural communities, but it's also encouraging what's called an agricultural systems approach. So this is an approach that focuses on maintaining a contiguous agricultural land base while also supporting and fostering long-term economic prosperity and productivity of the agri-food network. The PPS, this application falls directly in line with PPS recommendations, which actually stipulate that if a residence is severed from a farm, that the remaining lands be restricted from future development. The official plan has these lands designated as agriculture. And the main intent of that zone is to encourage agricultural uses, such as farms and farm residences. The property does also feature, as I mentioned earlier, the intermittent creeks, as well as a main creek. So the present application does not affect these creeks, as no new development is being proposed. It's restricting development, and the agricultural policies of the official plan echo the PPS in stating that when a severance occurs on the farm, the retained lands or the agricultural lands need to be restricted from future development. So again, this application aligns right with that. And our comprehensive zoning bylaw has this area zone for agriculture, as well as the creeks are zoned as agricultural protection. So the present application conforms with the zoning requirements for both zones, especially. Because there's no new development being proposed in the environmental protection, there's no concerns there. So again, as this application relates to our departmental plan, it continues to support the objective of continued growth and development within the community. This application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act to adjacent landowners and internal and external agencies. And at the time of writing this report, no concerns were received. And following once the consent is finalized, then the property may be reevaluated by MPAC, and each property will be reevaluated, and so the appropriate values will be assigned to each one. So if the next steps here would be for council to vote at some later today potentially, and then for us to enter into an appeal period, and then we advise the applicant when the appeal period is completed.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Planner Alex, thank you. So at this time, if the applicant is here and would like to speak on their behalf, I do not hear anything. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, does council have any questions? Thank you, Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd ask perhaps the planner to help me here, but I understand that when this application came in, the concerned parcel is going to have a barn on it. And it is understood by the Gould family that no animals can be in this building because of the separation distance. Have I got that right, Alex?
I was under the impression that the barn had been removed.
Thanks for that clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess we're moving on. Any other questions regarding this application? No? Then we will move on to the third and final application. Okay. So thank you, Planner Alex.
Thank you very much. So this is for application D14203. So the present application was submitted by Andrew McLeese on behalf of himself and Carrie McLeese for the property known municipally as 2370 Zion Line. The subject property was created in 2021 as a part of a severance to a surplus farm dwelling. The consent application was D10-146. The subject land is flat in nature and contains a dwelling as well as some outbuildings associated with the previous farm operation, including a livestock facility. The lands that surround the home or the subject property have been restricted from residential development as a part of the consolidation of the farming operation. And the lands across the street are currently vacant. So the purpose of this amendment is to add to the already existing agricultural exception, which is agricultural exception 71. And this is to allow for a chicken farming operation on a property that has a size of 2 acres. The chicken farming operation will be housed in the already existing livestock facility, which is approximately 150 square meters. And another part of this application is to reduce the zoning requirement for an 11-meter setback, which I will get into in just a few minutes. So I just want to note here that the proponent intends to avail of the Chicken Farmers of Ontario artisanal chicken farming program. So this would require that the operation be operated in compliance with all legislation that applies to chicken farming in Ontario. So again, I reviewed the application through the 3 policies. So the provincial policy statement, again, encourages healthy, integrated, and viable communities. They encourage development that is locally appropriate, and is sustained by local service levels. And again, this application really speaks to an agricultural systems approach, as I had mentioned earlier, which seeks to it seeks to integrate land use, economic, and environmental considerations while trying to sustain and enhance agricultural operations in the region. The PPS also directs us around land use compatibility. So the PPS requires that livestock operations maintain separation from sensitive land uses to mitigate potential conflicts such as odor and noise. So the subject property is surrounded by vacant lands at the moment on all sides, and the nearest dwelling is 395 meters away from the livestock facility. So I don't foresee any sort of negative impacts in that regard. And the PPS also encourages us to make wise use of and management of resources. And in this case, agricultural activity is considered to be a resource. So in this section, it's emphasizing that we need to protect and sustain the agricultural viability while managing nutrients and waste to prevent environmental harm. So this section also stipulates, as a part of this, in an effort to meet these goals, the section requires that all facilities will comply with the OMAFRA's minimum distance separation formula, which this application does conform to. The County of Renfrew official plan. So the subject lands are designated as agriculture in the official OP. The intent of this designation is to promote agricultural uses and to ensure the long-term viability of farmland in the region. And again, the OP also reinforces this the minimum distance separation, that OMAFRA's minimum distance separation, and requires that that be examined that be put in place with any agricultural activity.
Excuse me, are we okay here?
We're trying to get somebody else online, and that's what Carmen is trying to work with Sean, the applicant. So we'll, perhaps if we could take a minute recess, if that's okay.
Sure.
And then we'll get that figured out, and then we'll reconvene. That's all right with you, Chair?
Okay, I'm just going to mention that because we weren't with a microphone. So at this point in time, we're just waiting on another individual with a comment, a public comment. So we're just going to take a bit of a break here until we can get this glitch sorted out.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your patience. We just had a little bit of a technology glitch here, so we are back online once again. So if I may ask you, Planner Alex, if you would just continue on with your...
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I'm just going to start where I left off there, which was discussing the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So the subject lands are currently zoned agricultural exception 71. This zone allows for a secondary dwelling as well as a reduced, in addition to the to the zoning requirements for agriculture. This also allows for a secondary dwelling as well as a reduced setback for an outdoor furnace. And that was approved in October of 2022. The comprehensive zoning bylaw, like the other documents that I've referenced in this presentation, also discusses the requirement for the minimum distance separation, the OMAFRA minimum distance separation. So I did do the calculation based off the size of the facility, the livestock facility, which is approximately 150 square meters. And the application meets the setbacks, it meets all the setback requirements outlined in the MDS, the minimum distance, OMAFRA's minimum distance separation formula. However, that same part of the zoning bylaw also stipulates that the township requires a 30-meter setback of all livestock facilities from all property lines. So the proposed site for the livestock facility meets that 30-meter setback from the front property line, but does not meet the setback from the rear or the side lines, or the side lot line. So as part of this application, we're requesting that that setback be reduced to 11 meters, which still complies with the MDS, the minimum distance separation. So this present application supports the departmental work plan, which by allowing for continued growth and development in the community. This application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act to adjacent landowners, as well as internally and to external agencies. I did receive one email from a resident who was concerned that the minimum distance separation would potentially reduce the buildable area in their lot. They also had raised some concerns around air quality, water contamination, and a risk of pneumonia associated with chicken farming operations. I did speak with the landowner to clarify that the application, if approved, would not affect, the MDS would not affect the buildable area of their lot. I also highlighted for the resident that the application is not necessarily about the use per se, it's about the size of the lot that the use is going to occur on. And in an agricultural zone, it is my professional opinion that agricultural activities are well suited. The other point that I would like to make is that the MDS and the Nutrient Management Act have taken many of these issues into consideration, and that is what they are trying to mitigate, are these risks that the resident has brought forward. So, so while the concerns are valid, I don't believe that this present application, I believe that we won't encounter the concerns that the resident is raising if this application were to be approved. So following, for the township, any sort of financial implication, it may be that after the operation is up and running, the property may be reevaluated at a higher value, which would then increase tax revenue for the township. So if council votes on this matter, it would be the next step would be to let the applicant know through a notice of decision to allow the appeal period to pass, and then to advise the applicant when we're good to go. So that is my report.
Thank you very much, Planner Alex. I understand the applicant, Mr. McLeese, is online here with us. So at this time, if I could ask him to come forward. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. McLeese, you're on mute.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, council and staff. This is a brief summary of what we're looking to do and to provide some information regarding our application for a zoning amendment for a property. It is nowhere as detailed nor well put together as the one prepared by planner Alex. But I wanted to present the Cobden version in my own words to provide the vision we're looking to put together. We're looking to operate a very small scale seasonal poultry operation using one of the existing outbuildings on the property, previously used in a dairy operation. The goal is to be able to operate under the Chicken Farmers of Ontario's artisanal chicken program, which would expand the sales and farm gate only to local farmers markets, restaurants, and meat markets. All of our operations would have to comply with the Chicken Farmers of Ontario mandate to operate our farm business in a safe and environmentally responsible manner. We must also comply with the CFO policies and regulations along with all relevant federal, provincial, territorial, regional, municipal, and other governmental boards or agency requirements. We have been renovating our main barn to improve these conditions to meet those regulations. And based on the last statement, this is why it's being brought forward today, as we do not have the required 20 hectares of land to comply with the township's official zoning bylaw. Since moving here 3 years ago, we have been looking to repurpose the outbuildings and feel this program is exciting, would complement the agricultural land we live on and around. As I mentioned, the report in front of you is far more detailed and provides more specifics than my little version, but that's my presentation, and I just wanted to thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. McLeish. We appreciate that. If you would like to just stay on for a moment till we get it, see if there's any further excuse me, comments from council or the public. So at this time, I would like to ask if there are any comments from the public that would like to speak. I hear none. And what about council? Does council have any questions on this? And I hear none. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Mr. McLeish. This will be coming back later in the agenda, okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, this will close the public meeting, and I'll bring that to close at 6:38.
3:38.
Sorry. It's been a long day already. At 3:38, and thank you. Next on our agenda,
Is this not the,
no, not yet. That will be coming after. It's on item number 8 on our agenda, Ms. Burns. Right now, we're just going to be moving into our fourth quarter administration report, and then you will be following that, okay? Thank you very much. Okay. So at this time, we are at agenda 6.2, and at this time, I would like to bring forth the quarter administration report. I do have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region, well, I guess you don't receive the report.
We do.
Okay. Receive the 2024 fourth quarter administration report for information purposes. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Moore. Thank you very much, and I will turn this over to CAO Burton, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. And
Thank you.
I'll apologize on behalf of staff for the blurriness of the screens. My photo is there now, and it's really blurred, and I'm a little disappointed in the quality of my image, but it's okay. I'll proceed. So the fourth quarter was a period of transition as staff adapted to changing priorities and seasonal demands. So key efforts included the successful opening and operations of our arena facilities and the preparation of our municipal fleet for winter maintenance. So again, we're speaking about Q4 of the year 2024. Staff worked on the newly adopted annual budget, so that took up most of our time, focusing on balancing our financial goals with service delivery. The 2025 operating and capital budget aligns financial resources with the township's strategic visions, or our 2020-2030 strategic plan, and our council's strategic direction. It also balances asset renewal with maintaining tax rates and ensuring operational efficiency. So as the CAO, I'm proud that we've been able to adopt that in late December, and I thank all of staff for their efforts in moving that forward. The township remained committed to our water and wastewater affordability. So recognizing that we received the Water and Wastewater Task Force report, marking a key step forward, and we're using that still today to support recommendations coming before council. Again, thanking all the members who participated in that, including the councillor leads. And then we also prepared for delegations for the Roma conference, which is being held this coming weekend into Monday, Tuesday of next week. So we applied for our delegations, and one of which we've been afforded is with the Ministry of Infrastructure. So again, reiterating the shortfall of funding from the province to support our asset renewals. So we'll be highlighting that again with that ministry. So fall also included an all-day staff training session. This allows us to foster our skills and development and collaboration amongst our team members. We often work sort of in silos, so while the staff in public works don't connect too often with other operational staff, it's a good opportunity for us to all get in the same room and connect and build relationships. And I extend a sincere gratitude to all staff for their unwavering commitment throughout the year, ensuring that we meet our community's evolving needs. So the last thing I will note as a closing statement for 2024, and then I'll move into the different departments. So I just want to take a moment to recognize the hard work and dedication of our staff, council, and our volunteers who continuously support and strengthen our community. Their efforts ensure that we maintain the services, the programs that improve the quality of the life of all residents. So from daily operations to special projects, and the countless hours of volunteer service, their commitment makes a meaningful difference. We are truly fortunate to have such a passionate and driven team working together for the benefit of our community. So I'll just move into the quarterly report section, the administrative report, speaking about departments. What I'll do is I'll take a quick break. I'll pass it over to our planner, Alex Pisklavich, and he could highlight a few numbers in community development. Thanks. If you'd like, I'll go ahead first with the building stuff, and then our planner will speak to the planning items and community development. So building permits in the fourth quarter were 29 permits issued. The trend year over year, so that's one of the advantages of this Q4 report. We look at 2023 in relation to 2024. You'll note the second and third bullets, we seen a lessened number of permits, so 190 versus 211 in 2023. However, the construction value is of similar value. So while we have less permits, the construction value is generally the same. Number of dwellings not listed in here, we've seen 23 dwellings in 2024 versus 25 in 2023. So we're sort of holding at that trend, which I think is a similar trend to the previous to the pandemic. So we're kind of back at that same level for number of dwellings being built in the community. And I'll speak quickly about communications. So just highlighting that we are tracking the Facebook and Instagram number of followers and the like. So just highlighting that presently on Facebook we have just over 4,500 followers by the end of Q4. That's an increase of 352 year over year. And then in Instagram, number of followers is 1,100, and that's a 100 increase since 2023. And the last thing I'll highlight is that we've issued our first digital newsletter. Members of council may have seen that. So our new digital newsletter. So we encourage all the residents to subscribe to that. It's available on our website. So effective since December 3rd, we have 100 members of the public who are receiving the digital newsletters, who have registered for that digital newsletter. So I'll pass it over to you now, if that's okay, Planner. Thanks so much.
All right. I'll tell you a little bit about the planning and economic development. So this year, or in the last quarter, we received 5 minor variance applications, 4 consent applications, 0 bylaw amendments, and 1 site plan control agreement. In 2024, a total of 36 applications were presented to the Committee of Adjustment and Council. This is fewer than the 2023, which you'll see in bullet point number 3 there. There was 43 applications that were heard in in 2023. So some of the highlights of the previous quarter were that township staff worked with Enterprise Renfrew County staff to host a Small Business Month event. There were several events held throughout the county, and this was the most successful one. So that was most well attended. So that was very nice. And another big event that happened in the last quarter was that township staff worked with county staff to put on that Taste of the Valley in Cobden, which in the end was attended by more than 4,000 people, which is actually the largest Taste of the Valley ever. So that I think is very noteworthy. Staff also attended a 2-day Municipal Agriculture Economic Development and Planning Forum in Pembroke. I loved this event. It was amazing. And the bus tour especially was for someone like myself who was just learning some of the ins and outs of agriculture. It was very, very helpful. So they did a really great job. And then finally, something that's pretty exciting happening that's coming up in early 2025 is that we'll be launching the final phase of the it's the final phase of the Rural Economic Development Grant, which is the digital version of the new activity guide. So it's going to be a website that has our activity guide in a pretty interactive format. So it's, and I've seen it and it's looking good. So that's everything from community development.
Thanks so much. And through back to you, maybe the chair, if there's questions for community development, perhaps we'll ask them now, unless you wish to wait at the end.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can. Council, do we have any questions? Councillor Tabbert, please.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You said that, where is it here, that the best performing post was reached by 9,800 people or clicks or whatever. So I'm just curious, do we know what that one was? It seems to have generated quite a bit of interest.
What I'll do is, the communication thing is not my forte. I'll lean back on our community development coordinator tomorrow, and I will email council some specifications around what all of those items mean. Thanks so much.
Any other questions for council? Seeing none, then we'll move forward.
Great, thanks so much. I'll turn it over to our Manager of Community Services, Stephanie. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. So in community services, we've had a busy Q4. You'll note that the Cobden primetime ice availability is 89%, and the Whitewater seniors meals and numbers have been updated for the final quarter, and they are the highest of all the quarters in the year. Our strategic work plan, our facility staff attended Working at Heights training, and we've also held meetings with our recreation groups. We've completed some work at some of our facilities outside and in our parks, and we are continuing to meet with committees and on a staff level outside of our area as well as within our area. The use at the arena has included hockey tournaments through Muskrat, and then as well as new programs including a can skate, again, as a new renter in our facility and the regular renters in fitness classes. We've also attended some meetings and at the Algonquin College Career Fair in Pembroke, and then planning is underway for our new capital projects, including our table and chair purchases and the tender for our arena structural audits being prepared for Q1.
Yeah, thanks so much. If there's any questions for community services?
Thank you very much. Council, do we have any questions for Stephanie here? No, we see none. Okay, thank you very much. Moving forward then.
Great, thanks so much. And just, I don't think you mentioned it, Manager, but your patience with respect to the implementation of the new insurance program. I want to recognize your patience when managing that and implementing that. Thanks so much. So moving over to our Treasurer of Corporate Services, our Treasurer Curtis McGonigal. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So first thing I wanted to note on the quarterly report is the accounts receivable or the property tax receivable. So at December 31st, which represents the end of the fiscal year, was $1.44 million. That is up slightly from 2023. However, part of that is actually our payment in lieu was not received by the end of the year. Payment in lieu is the amounts of money that is received from the province and the federal government for the properties that they are the ownership of, so it's Transportation Ministry and Ministry of Natural Resources. They do not follow the same schedule as regular taxpayers do. And their fiscal year ends as March 31st, so we're expecting it in this first quarter. However, it was not received before year end, so it artificially makes our amount higher. If that had been received, we would only be $40,000 above the 2023 receivable, so right on par with that calculation. And it's a constant push to bring that number down. I did a breakdown between the years. So there's $769,000 for 2024, which is our billing and penalty, $389,000 for 2023, $165,000 for 2022, and then $117,310 for 2021 and prior. The $117,000 is the amount that we are actively pursuing for either tax sale, working through that 3-year arrears process, which includes the 12 properties that are currently registered for tax sale, as well as any other outstanding properties. So Q4 saw less response from those special arrears notices, mainly because with the postal strike, we were not able to send out an arrears notice for December. We were able to for January, but with that missing extra notice, we just received to come back in just as a reminder to everyone for the year end. $532,000 was showing for utility billing receivable at year end. The only reason for this number being as high as it looks is because we moved back the one billing that comes out in January for residents because it is part of our December year end, our 2024 year end. We just allocate that back into the year. It's just to explain why the amount seems higher. So for total for the entire year under development charges, we collected $58,251 through the building department. So now in that total amount, we have $309,636 worth of development charges for future projects that are accounted to development. And I'll be bringing forward a report this year to show where we can allocate those funds going forward in the budget process. So we're still to process funds through CCBF and OCIF. They've all been received, however, they've not been pushed into revenue side, so that's why the current budget shows a deficit at the end, because the projects have been completed and expenses realized, but the revenue not applied against. So those are still to be done, as well as in water. They're certainly showing a surplus, but the transfers between general and water has not been completed yet. That's all part of the year-end process and will be presented with the financial statements for 2024 when they're presented. So the next piece for the key activities that we completed was the final tax billing went out and was completed with the final installment. The last billing of water and wastewater was issued, the fifth billing I should say. The 2025 budget process was completed and passed on December 4th. We're currently working with a health and safety program called 4S and doing the training for the supervisors. And in order to implement also a time tracking or time entry module. And then our look ahead is we're looking to update the asset management plan for 2025. We've been currently this quarter meeting with iCity Online. iCity is the system that we use for our tax software. It's our entire finance software. And there's going to be a online version. We've been trying to get this for the last 3 years, and it's finally going to become operational. So residents will actually be able to get a PIN number on their tax bill, which they will then be able to enter in. They will be able to see their own taxes, make payments to their own taxes, all self-serve, that they're able to see things. So instead of maybe needing to contact the township office or retaining your bill as a piece of mail, they can get it emailed to them directly as soon as the billing goes out. So I know a lot of people have asked for that. People that aren't in the area or don't want paper mail anymore will actually be able to provide that service now to have that electronic piece that they'll get an electronic copy of their bill. So that's one exciting thing that's coming forward. So the interim bills will be going out first week of February. There'll be a PIN number on that, and then we'll push a notification out to everyone whenever that full rollout is operational. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Treasurer McGonigal. Do I have any questions for Council? Yes, Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you to our Treasurer. Mr. McGonigal quickly raced over the fact that our budget was completed and approved by December 4th, and I don't know how many people appreciate how much work went into that and how amazing that is. Madam Chair, you and I both remember the years when sometimes we would spend 25 to 30% of the budget before we passed it. And so this is a much, much better way to do business. And I just want, I know we all appreciate this, but the public should know how much better this is. And so I know we all thank staff for doing this, and I just want to note it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Trim. And I may add that I do believe Whitewater we were the first to have our budget passed out of the 17 municipalities. So there we go. Thank you. Councillor Trim.
Just an aside, we have at least 2 business people in the audience here today, successful business people, and they would appreciate that this is a good way to do business.
Thank you very much. Okay, back over to you,
Thanks so much, Treasurer McGonigal, for your time and your commitment in consolidating the budget. We all input a bunch of numbers, and then Curtis has the task of putting that all together. So I'll move over to the fire services, to our fire chief, Jonathan McLaren. Thanks.
Thank you. The fourth quarter was another busy quarter for us. 34 emergency responses, including 4 fires, 8 MVCs, one of which was required extrication, and then 3 calls to assist neighboring departments. That brought to 158 the number of calls we responded to in 2024, which is down only slightly from 2023, which we were kind of hoping was a bit of a statistical anomaly. So maybe this is the trend moving forward. There were 12 fires resulting in loss, 21 MVCs, 2 extrication calls, and 4 ice water rescue responses in 2024. Work plan and strategic plan progress. A review of the on and off duty firefighter insurance was completed. Due to lower costs and better coverage, will be remaining with our previous provider. Training site preparation was completed by our Public Works Department. A big thank you to them. Planning continues for the next phase beginning in the spring. Some of the key activities included 2 successful grant applications that we received, one Fire Smart and one Fire Protection Grant. I'll speak to those a little bit later in the meeting. NFPA 1001 Firefighter Level 1 training was completed with the written exam and practical exam being done on October 19th by a proctor from the Fire Marshal's office. Recruit training took place in December. 13 new firefighters will actually begin their training this evening, bringing our complement to 90 firefighters. Transition between winter and summer firefighting activities took place in November. Removal of wildland fire equipment and preparing the trucks for winter fire operations, as well as some targeted training. We had the retirement of Captain Rick Rattan from Station 1 after 30 years of service to both Ross and Whitewater. Very much appreciate his hard work over the years and wish him best of luck in his retirement. Looking ahead, we have our firefighter recognition ceremony on January 11th. We are beginning our first ever NFPA 1021 officer level course in-house, beginning in January as well, to meet the requirements of the provincial standard, and a promotional process to fill Rick's position and a couple other vacancies. And tendering for the replacement for 9718 and some new extrication equipment will begin in January as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fire Chief McLaren. At this time, do we have any members of council that would like to have any questions or comments? Councillor Tabbert, please.
I just have a few comments here. Fire Chief McLaren spoke about the awards ceremony on January 11th. It did take place. It was great to see so many people in attendance at it. When he was talking about the NFPA 1001 Level 1 training, I believe, if I'm correct, it was 150 hours of training they do on their own to get this certification. So that's a lot of hours for somebody to volunteer their time. And I thought it was great. It's nice to see our firefighters being recognized. They do a lot of work for us, and they keep our community safe during a tragic time. I mean, people are affected deeply by fires and accidents, and it's nice to know that we can depend on them to be there when they're needed. Thank you very much, Jonathan. If you could hand that down to the firefighters, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I certainly will. Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you very much for those words, Councillor Tabbert. And we iterate, we're just appreciative of all that you do for us, for keeping our community safe. So thank you very much. Moving on, I'm going to turn it back over to CAO Burton, please.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if I could, through you, the chair, ask our fire chief one quick question. So he spoke about the numbers, 160 calls in 2023. And I remember our conversations that was a record year. So when we say we're down from a record year, that's not great, right? We're still responding to greater number of calls. Do you have a recollection of what it looked like in 2022, 2021?
I can certainly pull those numbers. I don't have them offhand, but if memory serves me correctly, we would have been sitting around 115 to 125.
Yeah, so we've seen an increase, and thank you for your leadership and preparedness and responding to that. So thanks so much. So just moving over to the next service area, so Public Works, I'll pass it over to Manager Lane Cleroux. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you, CAO. Q4, we've seen a transition from summer to winter operations. So mechanics were very busy putting all the fleet for winter. The landfill processed 1,918 loads in Q4, which total for the year was 8,334 in 2024, which is down about 7.4% from the year before. In the work plan, staff completed the three main roads of the gravel road program: Service Road, Owen Road, and McCoy Road. Elva Drive, there was a cul-de-sac created in November. The new salt shed at Mindview Garage was installed in December. We had a new hire at Grant McNulty, was hired. And also we've seen existing staff, Scott Powell was transitioned from driver operator to mechanic operator, which has been a huge success, helping our other mechanic. The township engaged in a new 2-year fixed contract with Ontario Clean Water Agency. And then also staff switched one of our multiple lines in our town office to emergency lines. So any after hours calls, which we've seen in the last month or so, has gone up. So the new number is 613-647-3333. And also brushing took place on Didburner Road, Nikolai Design Line, and Lacroix Bay Road. And also staff took training of working at heights. And looking ahead, we'll see in Q1 is the water and wastewater bylaw, and also including the sewer use bylaw that was put into council in December. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manager Cleroux. And at this time, I'll ask if council has any questions or concerns for Manager Cleroux. Councillor Moore, please.
Just one. I know it's been busy the last while getting snow removed, and congratulations to Public Works. They've done a fantastic job. I haven't had any phone calls yet this year, and yeah, things are looking bright. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, the landfill compactor received the first 50-hour service. Any concerns or problems with it? I know it was a major purchase that we made, and I saw that on like 50 hours already. So, I mean, we're putting it to good use, but any problems or concerns with it?
No, there wasn't. There is a frequent inspection for the first few hundred hours. This was the first of many coming.
Any other? Thank you very much. Then I'll turn it back over to CAO Burton, please.
Thanks so much, and just recognizing Lane's efforts in managing the negotiations with Aqua and noted Miller Waste as well. So these are really big contracts with big providers for the township. They provide a great level of service, and it's important to recognize the skills needed to have those negotiations. So thanks. I'll pass it over as part of the office of the CEO. I'll have our clerk, Carmen Miller, speak first to highlight a few items, and then I'll summarize. Thanks.
Okay, so for our work plan, we, with the help of our summer student Mary Finan, we were able to digitalize a lot more of the records that are stored in the basement, and we're still continuing to review and update bylaws and policies. Our key activities are our emergency, that we had a very successful emergency management tabletop exercise, and we've also established our police boards. A look ahead, prepping for the upcoming 2026 election, and the Freshette meetings are probably going to start up late Q1. Back to
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'll just highlight a few activities of myself. So we continue our discussions with the Rec Association. So while we did enter into these agreements with the WDRA, Beachburg Recreation, the manager, myself, and including Councillor Bell, we continue our engagement with these associations. We're trying to understand how they're responding to utilization, what do the rates look like, and what does it look like into the future. So it's fine to sign something and let it sit for a while, but that's not the approach we've taken. We continue to meet with them, and I'm part of those discussions. Secondly, together with the mayor, I attended a couple meetings relating to childcare opportunities. So connecting with the County of Renfrew, understanding how the funding model works, meeting with the Renfrew County District School Board, so understanding whether or not we could leverage space in the schools, local schools, for additional childcare, and also with the Killaloe Community Resources Center. So that's a resource center in Killaloe that manages 2 or 3 daycares themselves. So wondering how we could partner with them. So we're continuing to investigate different options and alternatives with respect to childcare to increase opportunities in our community. I attended the Renfrew County Election Working Group, so in partnership with our clerk. Attended the Fall Renfrew County Clerk and Treasurers Association again, and also with the fellow colleagues, our Manager of Public Works, our Environmental Superintendent, the Algonquin College E-Tech Environmental Sessions. So the Algonquin College in Pembroke, under their environmental program, the students do a variety of different projects, and at the end of each year they do presentations, and we're generally invited to these presentations. One of their projects was pertaining to our landfill. So they had a drone out to evaluate the capacity, if you will, to some degree of the landfill. So really interesting to be part of one of their projects, and then coming back at the end to understand what the results were. So it was really neat. And just looking ahead, if I could highlight asset management plan, levels of service, and some compliance deadlines for July of this year. So staff are meeting bi-weekly to put something together regarding our asset management plan, looking to get this updated, and then it's a really important document to understand what we need to leverage into the future to support our existing assets. So I'll pass it back to you, Deputy Mayor, if there's any questions, and then we'll move to the last section.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for either CAO Burton or Clerk Miller at this time? Seeing none. Okay, I'll move it back over. Thank you.
Good. Thanks so much, and I'll pass it to you, Clerk Miller, if you will, and just highlighting and thanking you for consolidating all of these reports and bylaws. This agenda, all of this council business doesn't get put together by too many staff other than our clerk. So thank you for that, and if you just want to summarize, that'd be great. Thanks.
So for just the council business, in 2024, the council heard 75 bylaws. Last quarter was the library appointments, the MOU with the county and Laurentian Valley over the CN Rail. Some highlighted bylaws from 2024 were the emergency management plan, the updated plan, the appointment of the OPP boards and their budget. You heard 105 staff reports in 2024. The Q4 heard the 2023 year-end report, minimum wage amendments, and some highlights from 2024 was the recreation insurance, the water financial plan, the water and wastewater rate study, and the landfill compactor purchase. 24 presentations were heard in 2024, including the 2025 budget and the Q3 administration report. Highlights from 2024, some are the Freshette presentation, short-term accommodation delegation, and the outstanding youth bursaries. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions regarding council business? Seeing none, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if I could just close out just by saying, when I returned from vacation after the holiday break, I came to the office and I thought, okay, I've had a break. You know, maybe the pace will slow down a little bit, but it hasn't. We're still up and running, and we're continuing to push and to strive for to make our community better. So, you know, we might pause for water every now and then, but we're continuing to jog and to run and to push things forward. Just noting, just in today's agenda, there's 8 reports. Last year we had 105 reports total through the whole year, so we've already back at our average pace. So we're right back at it, and we're continuing to push forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And if I could just, in closing, just once again say on behalf of all of council, to all of staff, thank you so much. Please pass on to everyone our appreciation. We do really have a great team, and we're very fortunate to have the professionals and the staff that we have with us. So thank you very much. And I do believe that closes this portion of the report. Thank you. So moving on, we have the mayor's address. We have no mayor here. I'm not doing it. So are we okay? Can we keep moving on? We're still good to keep going, or do we need a 5-minute break? Are we good? We're good.
Perhaps if I could recommend, we could do public comments and maybe take a recess after public comments before we get to reports.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, we will do that. Thank you. So we'll move into item number 8, public comments. And I will turn it over to Clerk Miller, please. Thank you.
We did receive one request from Ms. Donna Burns. So if, Ms. Burns, if you want to come up to the microphone, you know how to use it. I will remind you that you have 3 minutes, and that council will not be asking any questions or entering into any debate or discussion on the subject matter.
Okay, you all know who I am. And I study all your bylaws pretty much, so I wanted to bring to your attention this new, excuse my voice, I've been dealing with a cold for the last month. This bylaw that you want to amend on licensing recreational trailers, tent trailers and whatever. So I noticed when I read that bylaw, in my opinion, it's ultra-virus. I've given you a handout where I have addressed all the issues concerning that bylaw, because I can't possibly, I only have 3 minutes to speak to it. But number one, when you create a bylaw, the first thing you should do with the Municipal Act, since it is your authority that you have to work under, you go to the interpretations, section 1, and it outlines everything that you want to do for whatever bylaw you want to create. So for instance, this licensing bylaw, you will see under section 1, it refers to business licensing bylaw, and it explains what it means. It's for businesses. So then you go to the section for licenses, which is part 4. Now that section is 150 to 165. In your bylaw, you only refer to section 164 within that section. And you didn't read, or it appears you didn't read the definition, and it's important you have to read these definitions to know what the intent is for licensing. So in the definition, it goes on to explain how your business licensing would apply. And there's nothing in there that says that it applies to trailers on private property. So then you go to, I'm going to have you go back to 164 again, that you refer to in that bylaw. And it says in that section, without limiting sections 9, 10, and 11, a local municipality may prohibit or license trailers located in the municipality. What you got to realize is, what's Section 9 of the Act? Section 9 is the municipality only has the capacity, rights, powers, and privileges of a natural person for the purpose of exercising its authority, meaning property that belongs to the municipality. And a natural person is defined as a human being, meaning the municipality has no more authority to prohibit a trailer on another person's property than you or me have authority to prohibit the use of a trailer on public property that is owned or controlled by the municipality. In other words, the municipality can prohibit or license a trailer situated in the public park as per Section 51, as noted in the interpretations if you go back to Section 1. Of course, Section 10 and 11 of the Municipal Act, 10 is referring to single-tier municipalities when creating a bylaw. Section 11 is referring to your local municipalities. So going back to Section 164, it then gives you the restriction when licensing these trailers. So, and then it gives you a definition under Section 164 that gives the description what a trailer means. So,
Sorry.
Pardon?
Your 3 minutes is up, I'm sorry.
Already? Oh,
Yeah.
gee. Okay, one quick thing then. Section 50 refers to the, of the Municipal Act says that you are in violation of the Highway Traffic Act. So, and you're subject to fines, and you got to look at the insurance as well. So, read this document and learn from it, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So at this time, we will take just a little break here and take a bio break. We'll have. Thank you very much. And we will now continue on with our agenda. Next is our our reports, item number 9. And our first report is a zoning bylaw amendment that we just went through. The recommendation is that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve a zoning amendment to the severed and enlarged parcels of consent file D10-221, described as Lot 19, Westmeath Concession North Front A, known municipality as 19D, Moores Beach Road, Waterfront Vicinity, WV, to Waterfront Vicinity, Exception 62, WVET. And we have went through that report. Does Council have any questions or concerns? Councillor Moore.
I guess I would direct this at Councillor Trim, being on that committee. Does this, in fact, is going to interfere with any of the neighbors on access, or is this, how is this access trail going to work in proportion with that red yellow line that was up on the screen?
Madam Chair, I'd like to refer this to the planner, but he will explain how this cleans it up. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry,
I'm going to have to...
Excuse me, can I just, I'm sorry, I just have to back this up a bit because I'm a little green at this. So we do need a mover and a seconder here, please. Councillor Olmsted and Councillor Trim, thank you. I apologize. Next.
I will have to get back to you on that. I don't have I wasn't the planner at the time, and I wasn't there for the hearing of this application, so I'll have to look back at the notes from the application.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
If I could, through you, Deputy Mayor,
thank you.
And again, correct me, and we can verify this afterwards. Right now, the red and the green are together. If you look at the map in front of you, the red strip, the road, the private road, is owned by the land in green. So it basically, it goes all the way around the blue property, and with the owner, he owns all of this. He's just trying to clean it up so that the green no longer owns the road. And it gets transferred to the blue property by itself. So he's removing this encumbrance, if you want to call it an encumbrance limitation, from the green and putting it over to the blue. That's the cleaning up of it.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Item 9.2, a zoning bylaw amendment, D-14-202, 1654 Queens Line. A recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve an amendment to the zoning of property described as Ross Concession 7, Part Lot 26, formerly known municipally as 1654 Queens Line, from Agricultural A to Agricultural Exception 77A-E77, to prohibit residential uses on the property. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Moore and seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Item number 9-3, zoning bylaw. Whoops, that would be the one we just, oh no.
D-14-203?
What happened here? What happened here? That's weird. Okay, sorry. Zoning bylaw amendment D-14-203, 2370 Design Line. I have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve a zoning amendment for the property described as part of Lot 14, Westmeath Concession 3 EML, and known municipally as 2370 Design Line, to permit agricultural uses on a property having a lot area less than 20 acres, and to reduce the rear and the side lot line setback for livestock facilities, manure storage areas, or farm use buildings, structures to 11 meters. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Olmsted and Councillor Moore. Any questions or, yes, Councillor Trim, I'm sorry, Councillor Tabbert.
You read 20 acres, but here it says 20 hectares. Is there a difference between the hectares and the acres then?
Did I say 20 acres?
No, she just read it 20 acres, so I'm just...
Yeah, so the zoning requirement is that you can't do agricultural activities. The only activity that's permitted on a lot smaller than 20 hectares is developing a residential dwelling, basically. There's a few other smaller, but resident...
okay, really, but hectares is correct,
hectares
not acres.
Is that's correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Item number 9-4, Community Services Advisory Committee. I have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region repeal bylaw number 24-02-1662, thereby resolving the Community Services Advisory Committee. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bell and Councillor Trim. And over to CAO Burton.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks so much. So our manager had to just depart to deal with a personal matter, so I'll go through the presentation. So what we have before council is the repeal of the bylaw that created the Community Services Advisory Committee. So back in February of this year, after council had been managing some challenging matters with respect to recreation services, the hiring of Stephanie, our manager, it was decided at that time that we could put together a committee to help shape the future and to plan out more cohesively amongst all the groups moving forward. Now, what the appointed members of the advisory committee included the 3 rec associations, 1 member from one of the seniors group, which was the Whitewater Seniors, or the Westmeath Seniors. There was 1 member from the trail, so the snowgoers had a member there, so the ATV club was not represented on this advisory committee, and the like. So we had one of a variety of different organizations, and then we also did not have the agricultural societies as part of this recreation advisory committee. So the strategy here is that rather than meet with these one-off of each of the groups, we're going to move to hosting informal meetings with the rec associations, informal meetings with the ag societies, informal meetings with the trail organizations, the snowgoers, the RCATV, the Ottawa Valley Active Transportation Group. So we would combine these organizations together and meet with them together to speak about their priorities. So the sentiment is that the change in this strategy, we're going to continue to meet the needs and the objectives of the original committee, the mandate, but through a different service delivery, if you will. So staff are supportive of this. I believe our manager did converse with the advisory committee at their last meeting in I think it was early January and/or in December, and they appeared to be acceptable with this change as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. At this time, do we have any questions for council? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Oh, I'm so sorry. Councillor Bell, please.
It's not so much a question, but just to speak to this just a little bit. I think whenever this was put on the table, Ivan, or not to speak for our CAO, but we didn't have a manager taking on this portfolio, and this was a little bit of a means to get some of the local community groups into the same room to discuss some of the issues or some things that were coming up in the community. Since Stephanie's been hired on, she's done a great job introducing herself to a lot of the local community groups, and she's in constant contact with anything that's coming up within the community. So I think this is probably the best thing moving forward, is to have the relevant groups meet up whenever there's relevant information. And then the other thing that Stephanie, I believe, is looking at doing is to continue with email communications on a regular basis, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly, just to keep some of these organizations updated on some of the things that are coming up in the township. And then we can meet with those organizations from there. So I'm in full support of this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bell. Any other councillors, any comment or concern? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favour? Thank you, and that is carried. Item number 9-5 is our Fire Smart Community Grant. I have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enter into a transfer payment agreement to access funding through the Ontario Fire Smart Communities Grant. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tabbert and Councillor Moore. And I'll turn this over to our Fire Chief, please. Thank you.
Thank you. In September of last year, the Whitewater Region Fire Department applied for funding through the Ontario Fire Smart Communities Grant. This grant was to improve wildland fire risk reduction and planning and mitigation for when these events do occur. Wildland fires has been identified as a potential risk in the community risk assessment that was completed last year, as well as the Whitewater Region Emergency Response Plan. So the completion of a community wildland fire protection plan was kind of on our radar anyway, but when this grant came, it kind of expedited things a little bit. So our project would be to focus on 4 different aspects. One is to create hazard mapping and then use some GIS as well. This would help us determine, the potential areas that are of most concern for us, where we might install some additional water sources, dry hydrants, things like that. This would be done by an outside agency or consultant. We don't have the internal capacity to do that or the expertise, but the rest of the program would be done by staff. The second step would be identify risks in wildland fire, particularly in the interface between our tourism areas and our forest, as well as our agricultural areas and some of our forest. It's becoming a bigger and bigger concern, the agricultural side of things, with kind of the monoculture approach to farming, where we're seeing these large swaths of, pick a crop, but, hundreds of acres of wheat, for instance, which is very vulnerable certain times of the year. Just what steps we can take to make sure we're prepared for that. We'll do some focus on site plans and review our open air burning bylaw, just to make sure that it aligns with the information we're getting through the rest of this project, and then increase public education, gearing it towards the risk of wildland fire. We haven't really focused on that quite as much as maybe we could in the future. Targeting our schools, we can get to children quite easily, and they are great ambassadors of fire safety, as well as trying to work with some of our tourist groups. Sometimes people from out of the area don't realize the threat of wildfire. As far as how this works with our strategic plan, it's a complement to our emergency response plan, our community risk assessment. Engagement's taken place already with the ministry, as well as internally with staff. I have another meeting next week with the MNRF to discuss this a little bit further. And then moving forward, we'll discuss this with other neighboring departments. If anybody else is were successful with their grant applications, maybe we can find one consultant to do all the mapping together and hopefully save some money and, make sure everything's kind of aligning as far as communications go. There's no financial impacts to our budget as it's fully funded. We would receive half of the $15,000 upon agreement, and then the remaining when the project is complete, which would have to be done by February of 2026. So the project is broken down into 9 distinct steps. They include forest fire hazard mapping, open air burning bylaw review, consulting with stakeholders, and completion of the community wildland fire protection plan. There's a few other steps in there, but those are the big ones. So with that, I'll turn it over if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Fire Chief. Any questions for Council? No? Thank you very much. Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Next, item number 9.6, Ontario Fire Protection Grant, a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enter a transfer payment agreement to access the Ontario Fire Protection Grant, funding, and approve the additional unfunded costs of this project. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tabbert and Councillor Trim. Thank you, and I'll go back over to Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you. A little bit of a background on this grant. It's the first year that it has become available. This year, or sorry, I suppose last year, and the funding would be this year. The grant is specifically for cancer prevention within the fire service. It's an ongoing and continued concern of ours, to say the least. So our proposal, and we were successful in getting the maximum funding, but not enough to cover this program, would be to install our own SCBA cylinder fill station. Currently, when our cylinders are low, we need to go to either Pembroke or Renfrew to have them filled. It's the cost of filling is not all that large, but it's the travel back and forth which becomes problematic, particularly during fires when we need to refill cylinders. Firefighter Cancer Prevention Month is January, so it kind of lines up with what our goal for this project is. We want to make sure and protect our firefighters, and since they're most susceptible through breathing in toxins, we want to make sure that they always have ample supply of clean air. We did engage with the OFM during this project to make sure it was eligible for the grant, because it was not necessarily aligned with some of the projects that they recommended, but they assured us that it did fall in to their parameters. So the financial implications for this would be, in addition to the $41,152 provided by the province, we would need $25,000 to complete the project. And after discussions with our treasurer, his suggestion would be for this to remain unfunded for the year until 2026. So moving forward, the next steps we would take, if approved, is selecting an appropriate fill station based on our needs, confirming that we have the clearances, hydro requirements, ventilation requirements, and so forth, and then go ahead and tender this project. So I'll turn it over for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or concerns, Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Not understanding what all has to take place here, but I understand now you're traveling from all of our departments to either Renfrew or Pembroke. Do all departments have the SCBAs in them?
Yeah, that's correct. Each station has an allotment of SCBA and spare cylinders.
So would the filling station be located in one of the departments, or would it be in multiple stations?
There would be one centrally located in Forsters Falls.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Tabbert, please.
So if you're fighting a large fire, there's the possibility that you could run out of oxygen in these tanks without having our own fillable stations. Is that a possibility or no?
That's a possibility. It hasn't happened. I don't foresee it happening. It could also happen with our own fill site. If we're using enough air, we only have so many cylinders. If that were the case, we would be dealing with, an exceptionally large, complicated fire. It's not something that's, like I said, ever happened before or is likely to happen, but there's always that potential.
Thank you. There's always that potential.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moore.
Just wondering, going back on what you said, the treasurer said to not put it in the budget for foreseeable, but you're talking 2026 for a start, and does the money from the government go that far, or is it open-ended with the government on the grant money?
I can take that. So the grant would actually be completed this year. and the funds expenditured in the year, but we would leave the project unfunded and then fund it in the capital budget for 2026. Because it's only $25,000, it's not a large expenditure, so it would just automatically be incorporated into the 2026 budget when we go to approve. The piece that was looked at is we could either do that or whenever the actual rates come through at the end in June, when the rates actually are calculated, whenever we have county and all the other pieces, we could amend the budget at that point in time to incorporate it or leave it unfinanced. That option will be up to council at that point in time in June. But this project, the funding is available for this current year, 2025.
Hey, thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is 9.7, the recreational vehicle trailers bylaw update. I have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the amendments to the recreation vehicles trailers licensing bylaw. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Trim and Councillor Olmsted. And I'll turn this over to Clerk Miller, please.
Sorry, just a little behind 1 second, okay? In 2019, Council established the bylaw to license recreation vehicle trailers. Since the licensing program began, we averaged approximately 21 trailers per year, resulting in an annual revenue of approximately $6,300. We have run into two issues regarding the enforcement and the water setback. The first issue is that the new zoning bylaw establishes a water setback of 30 meters, but some of the lots along the waterfront can't meet this setback. So to address this issue, a recommendation for a reduced water setback of 20 meters to reflect the limitations and the temporary nature of the trailers while still maintaining a reasonable buffer zone from the water. The second issue is section 2.1 of the bylaw. This section allows for recreational trailers to be used without a license for up to 10 days. While this provision was intended to accommodate occasional trailer use, it has proven to be difficult to enforce. There is no effective method for monitoring the length of time a trailer has been in use, leading to non-compliance and enforcement challenges. It's being proposed to remove the exemption to ensure consistent enforcement and to bring all trailers into compliance. If approval of the amendments is passed, messaging in the current and social media channels will help circulate the information, and a bylaw will be included at the next regular meeting. So if we have any other questions, I'll answer.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions or concerns? Councillor Tabbert, please.
As I read this and I listened to it, so if we take the setback closer to the water for the trailers, what stops us from changing the bylaw so that houses and cottages can be built closer to the water? I mean, a trailer is like a home, so I have concerns that somebody may make the trailer a permanent structure even though it's still a mobile home. Please explain that to me.
Trailers are only allowed on the property from the month of, I want to say May to November, so they can't be affixed to the property.
Thank you. Councillor Burton.
If
yes,
I could,
CAO Burton, yeah.
Just for clarity purposes, just because Councillor Tapper mentioned mobile homes, this is not mobile homes. These are rec vehicles. These are pull-behind trailers. They could be RVs, but they're certainly not mobile homes. So just for clarity, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, please.
I'm just wondering, what is the intention of licensing somebody that wants, like licensing a trailer? Somebody owns a property on the river and wants to bring the trailer in for a month. Like, what is the purpose of this license? Yeah, I'm maybe just looking for a little clarification as to why we'd be looking to license a trailer for somebody that just has a property, wants to come and keep it on their property for a few weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. If I could, just because in 2019, when I was the planner, I just had started at that point in time, this was one of the challenges that the community was facing, is that these trailers existed a little bit everywhere. And to some degree, they were becoming, in some instances, they were becoming a problem. So we were getting, the township was getting calls of disturbances as a result of some of their neighbors who are just, there would be 3-4 trailers would show up on a property for the weekend, and they'd stay a long weekend and they'd disturb the area. So the strategy would be that, you know, the thought was we want to allow them. It allows to bring more people to our community. It allows people to use their properties. So among recognizing that if you have to pay a fee, people are more cognizant and maybe of their surroundings, if you will. But some of the other crucial parts is they have to be connected to some type of sewage system. So we know how they're managing their sewage, whether they put in a septic system, whether they're utilizing the internal tanks of the trailer. They need to indicate to us how they're doing that. Secondly, they need to have some way of providing electricity that is not a generator. So in most instances where people are doing this on an annual basis, they've actually got hydro to their property on a pole, and they could plug into that. So it's not causing these generators to be running all night. And then I think there was a third one. Sorry?
Flood.
Yeah, so the floodplain as well. So these trailers were existing in floodplains. So in order to mitigate against that, the owners have to sign an agreement with us saying that they're going to remove their trailers in November so that they don't get damaged in the spring in the case of a flood. So that'd be the fourth thing. The fifth thing, if you will, was an address. So while these trailers exist, people are there, they're active. In case of emergencies, they don't have a municipal address. So one of the components of the implementation is a municipal address so emergency services could attend to their site. So those were kind of the components. We meshed prohibiting them fully, which was how it was supposed to be implemented in the past, to allowing them subject to some oversight, if you will. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Trim, please.
I can think of one more, if I may, and that is that, of course, the vacant lot is assessed as a vacant lot. And with a fee, it would contribute to the services that we provide for the people who are receiving services on the road. So, you know, you could have a vacant lot with a trailer, and the next door neighbor has a home, and they're paying a lot of taxes for a home on the water, and this lot is being taxed as a vacant lot. And so to help, I think, the fee helps pay for the services, the minimal services that trailer would get while it's there, like garbage pickup and brushing and road maintenance in the summertime, that sort of thing. So I'm thinking that's something else that may be a reason for doing this.
Thank you very much. That's a good point. Councillor Bell, please.
So just with those numbers, so 2024, there was 22 licenses provided. Do we know if that's capturing, to what extent that's capturing the trailers that are actually being set up in the township? Like how well the licensing is being taken on by the consumers or by the residents?
Yeah, and I think I could potentially defer to our clerk because she's the one who's visiting the township as a whole, identifying where there's trailers and sending them letters. However, the challenge we're having is the 10 days. So when we communicate with these residents or these trailer owners, they always revert back to, oh, we're only here for 3 weekends, so it's less than 10 days. So removing that, I think we're going to capture a lot more of them. So we could likely see an increase in the number of permits being issued. I would think we'd likely double it, to say the least, by removing that provision. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or concerns? Councillor Tabbert, please.
What is the current cost of a license?
It's $300 per year.
So we technically, by approving this, I mean, it could have happened before, is I could just bring a trailer there and set it there for 6 months and take it off, and so our waterfront could be trailers all the way along, technically speaking, right? If we're going to allow people to have trailers.
Yeah, so the land use compatibility question is one that was arisen in 2019, but you're correct. If they were all vacant lots, so you're allowed one rec vehicle per vacant waterfront lot. So yes, it has to be vacant for one. So if there's a cottage there, you can't have a trailer unless you get a variance to the bylaw. So there's some complexities there, but you're right. It doesn't exist that much in our community where there's like 10 vacant lots on the water. They all are built on for the most part. But this is an opportunity to, one, utilize your property. So if you're a vacant lot in the floodplain, you can't build. So this allows you to use your lot with a rec vehicle through the summer. So if there's the other circumstances, if you have a vacant rural lot, it allows them one on a rural zone property. So in the midst of you proposing to develop your house in the future, you could use your property with a rec vehicle through the summer months. So somebody could bring their trailer in, but we would encourage them to get a license first, because if we become aware that they exist without a license, we'll pursue them to get a license. Yeah.
The other concerns you said was because somebody could come in for the long weekend, cause a disturbance and leave. Well, what's to stop them from doing a disturbance throughout the whole summer then with a trailer there, with different people coming and things like that? Like, I'm not talking B&B, I'm just talking somebody who has a lot of friends, and so I'm not sure why that would be a concern.
So for clarity, we're not in the business of managing people's attitudes and their behaviors, for clarity, so maybe that should not have been noted. I think there's value in having a fee that has to be applied so people recognize that they're paying for a license. If they are causing disturbances, we could revoke their license. Which is an ability through the licensing bylaw. So if we're constantly getting disturbances, the township has the ability to revoke their license, forcing them to remove their trailer from the property. But again, we haven't been faced with that, Councillor Tabbert, so I mean, we could explore that to the whole night, but we haven't been faced with that issue. But recognizing the $300 is equal to the assessed value of a trailer if you were to create an assessed value of a trailer. So that's how we worked the $300 in. And just to close out the fee, we had a transition fee. So when we first implemented this, I think it was $100, which was like 33% of the whole fee. The second year was $200, and now we've reached the $300. So there was an opportunity for those existing trailers at the time to transition into this new permitting system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Tabbert?
I can say I'm concerned about this because, I mean, it doesn't seem fair to somebody who has property that doesn't build on it, but you're charging them to put a trailer on there. And is there any, does it have to be up to a certain specification, or can it be a junky trailer? Or like, I don't understand the purpose of this, but so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, if I could just, one last thing is, the purpose is, before this existed, they were prohibited. They were not allowed in our community whatsoever. This is the option that is just allowing them wherever we want without any permitting. This is the middle ground, that compromise ground, to allowing them in our community. Otherwise, the zoning bylaw restricts them, prohibits them in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, yeah.
Think through you. Just one thing I think we should point out too, which I think is really, really important, is without sort of regulating, some people were putting a bucket in the ground, and that's where, or it was, and I'm not, but there needs to be some kind of enforcement so that we can keep track of what's happening.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I do have just one, if I may, please. So if I own a cottage and I have someone that comes in just for the weekend, how do I do that? Do I pay for that, or can I even do that?
If you have a cottage, trailers are, according to the bylaw, trailers are not allowed on the property only for storage only. If you have a cottage, you need to get a variance to allow a trailer, and you also need a license.
Okay, so if I come in for a weekend, I need a variance, and where do I get that from? From here?
Clerk's office.
To the clerk's office. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, seeing none, I think we've beat this to death. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. But some really good questions, and certainly do appreciate all the answers. Welcome, Mayor. I'll just continue on, if I may, Mr. Mayor. We're just about through 9.8, and so I think we'll carry through and just finalize these last two items, if I may. So next on the agenda is item number 9.8, the 2025 Job Evaluation, Pay Equity, and Salary Review Project. I have a recommendation that Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the award of a sole source contract to Cornerstones Management Solutions Limited for services related to job evaluation, pay equity, and salary review at an upset limit cost of $14,745.02, inclusive non-refundable HST. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore, and I'll turn this over to CAO Burton.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So what we have before Council is a proposal from Cornerstones Management Solutions to move forward with some work relating to job evaluations, pay equity, and salary review. So this relates to our organizational structure policy. That policy is attached to the report, which sets out the township structure, organizational chart, and salary grid. Within that policy, it speaks that each position will be subject of a full job classification review at least once every 5 years. Our last review was done in 2021. It was a joint participation with 4 other municipalities, Watershed Valley, Greater Madawaska, McNabb, Braeside, and Laurentian Valley. And I will note, in conversation with the CAO in Laurentian Valley, they've just completed their subsequent review from 2021 last year. And they've also used Cornerstone Management Solutions, so they've gone back to the same company, similar to what we're proposing here. So just highlighting under analysis that the project itself would include a comprehensive review of our existing job evaluation classification and salary structure to ensure that we're in compliance with the pay equity requirements. Secondly, the evaluation would undertake a comparison of market comparators, so examining municipalities in Renfrew County and other municipalities with similar scope of services to see how we fit in with the market. And another item is we have included in this proposal that they evaluate and collect data for the council remuneration. So what Cornerstones would do as part of this proposal is collect the data and comparators for council remunerations for council's consideration. So what typically happens with council remunerations, they are typically reviewed by the current council, and any changes become applicable post-election in 2020, that'd be in 2026. After the 2026 election. So in the past, we had typically had a task force type or a review panel. The last one was formed by Randy Keith, Del O'Brien, and Art Jameson. So the strategy here is that Cornerstone would collect all the data, we would present it to council, and if council felt the need to get a external review panel, we might do so to provide some input into the process. So the Cornerstone would collect the data and provide some input. So the project timeline is January to March, with the implementation between April and June. So with this comes the implementation is preparations of letters for all the employees to make them understand what the task was, what the outcome was. So there is some work that's involved in that. So the 2023 budget, how we're going to fund this, included a capital expenditure of $20,000 for employee retention incentives. None of that money was spent at that time. It was put there because we were seeing a lot of turnover in our staffing, from the CAO to several managers and the like. So as part of the 2023, we implemented an employee engagement, which I've discussed with council. And one of the recommendations from the CAO of that is to conduct this salary review. So we would meet our 5-year review timeline, and we'd also respond to that employee engagement survey. So the last thing I would note that if the next steps is that we would engage in an agreement with Cornerstone, and just noting that the project team will consist of myself and the manager of public works. So we'll work together to ensure the delivery of the project and working with the management and leadership teams. So we're looking forward to this. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, CEO Burton. Do I have any questions from council? Councillor Trim, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the CAO, you mentioned financial implications, and you covered off the cost of the project. However, what happens if the results of the project indicate that there needs to be more money put into salaries in different areas? How do we cover that off this year?
So I would say that until we have a sense of what that might look like, it would be difficult to respond to that because we don't know what the outcomes of the evaluation will be. Council will be a participant, and they will be reviewing the information and making decisions around any changes. So at that time, when we present that information, we would at the same time present strategies on how we would fund that in the current year. So to come, if I could say that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Moore.
I was around for the last survey. Just wondering what the difference will be this time with Public Works being not unionized. Will that make a difference?
So as I don't think it'll make much of a difference. Just noting that I believe that as part of the decertification of that union group, their salaries were incorporated into the non-union salary grid. So through a proper evaluation of those positions. So I would expect that when we conduct the job evaluation, the classification, they'll likely be in the same group, but again, we will evaluate that as part of this proposal. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And next we have item 9.9, the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. I have a recommendation. The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region authorizes the execution of a partnership with Bonnechere Valley and North Algoma Wilberforce for the implementation of the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore, and I'll turn it over to CAO Burton. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. So what we have before Council is a proposal to execute an agreement with BV and North Algoma Wilberforce, and this pertains to that Rural Transit Solution Fund. So back in 2023, Annette Gilchrist, who's sort of the lead on this funding application, approached myself and the staff at North Algoma Wilberforce to seek our interest in participating in the grant. I did come to council as part of a correspondence to seek direction to provide a letter of support to Annette as part of her application and to partner, and that was supported by council back in 2023. In 2024, spring of 2024, she was informed that she was successful in her grant. and that meant we have to figure all this out, if you will. The funding is such that it will support the purchase of 1 electric vehicle for each of our communities, so 3 electric vehicles total, and 2 charging stations for each of our communities, so a total of 6 charging stations. The value of that is more or less $95,000 per community. We will also be purchasing software for the charging station, software to implement a public rideshare program, which we're still evaluating, valued at more or less $50,000. And the total project cost is around just over $500,000. So the federal government is funding $387,000 of that, and then the participating municipalities are funding the remainder, which is estimated to be around $43,000 for Whitewater region. And I forgot to speak to our treasurer whether or not we had budgeted that for 2024 before today's meeting, but don't speak to it yet. Think about it first. Just also noting that that $43,000 also includes non-eligible cost of maintenance on the vehicle, hydro for the charging stations, permitting for the vehicle, and insurance. So it covers both the eligible and the non-eligible cost. That's the estimated for now. The program is covering a 3-year implementation. However, if you read the fine print of the agreement, which I have, we are committing to 5 years. So there's 2 years there that we're not getting any money from the federal government, but they are requiring us to implement the program. So whether we transition or change the program after 3 years, well, we'll evaluate that when the time comes to see if we can continue doing what we do for a similar price. So I did give a quick estimate of what it might look like in years 4 and 5. We're expecting that the cost would be more or less $10,000. That's $20,000 of operating less the revenue from the charging stations and rental of the vehicle. So we'll continue to evaluate that amount as we move through the program. So what I'll note, the agreement captures a variety of things: commitments by ourselves and the recipients, contract procedures, reporting, audits, evaluations, communications, approvals from the federal government around that, and services. So the last page of the agreement speaks about what the service would look like. We're looking at a 5-day-a-week rideshare transit service, which would be applicable during regular hours of work. Maximum 7 hours per week from each individual utilizing the vehicle. Trip distance would be max 250 kilometers. You'd have to purchase a membership for $12 a year, and you'd be paying $5 per hour, or to be determined. And we're looking to purchase CUVs or an SUV, compact utility or sports utility vehicle, all electric it has to be, with snow tires and the like. So we're looking to do that purchase between February and May, and then purchase and install the charging stations between March and June for the launch of the program in June 2025. So quite a bit of work ahead of us. We are, I know our manager of Public Works is working on the tender documents for the vehicle, and our treasurer will likely take over leadership of the program or the project on behalf of Whitewater Region. So I'll close out with that, and maybe if you could just confirm if we did budget the $43,000 or a portion of it for 2024.
Thank you. So yes, we did budget a portion of it. So the first year's contribution, which is the implementation year, we put forward $35,000. At this point, it's put as coming out of the Ottawa River Power Corporation Reserve, which is the money that we receive every year from Ottawa River Power due to our promissory note interest and our dividends from being a shareholder in that corporation. We also are doing applications for other grants, however. There are a few other grants. The one that Watershed Valley is also applying for, it goes through the same government institution that will allow for funding that we are able to stack on top of the funding we're already receiving in order to pay for that. So should that happen, the amount of money would remain, the $35,000 would remain in the Ottawa River Power Corp reserve. And in the future years, we could look to using that reserve to pay for the further year 4 and year 5 amounts that the CAO has mentioned, because our normal revenue that's generated from that is put into the reserve is between $10,000 and $12,000 annually. Thank you.
And maybe just, I don't know where the charging stations are going yet. That's the one item that probably is questionable. We're not sure yet, but we'll figure that out in short order and we'll let you know. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for council regarding this? Councillor Bell and then Councillor Trim following. Thank you.
What does the insurance look like for a program like this? If there's going to be this ride sharing or being part of the membership, multiple drivers of the same vehicle, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that included into the cost of providing this program, or how does that look?
So the model, the budget that Annette had used established a sum of money to cover our insurance, cover our insurance for the ride program. It wasn't a substantial amount. I'm not sure if she's derived that number and communicate with her insurance company. However, she has circulated this agreement with her insurance company to make sure that there'll be some appetite to provide coverage, which I think there will be. So I don't have the exact number, but we could provide that afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Trim, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, and maybe you don't know this yet, but I would be interested in knowing at some point what level charging station you're going to install. It would either be a level 2 or 3, and I'm wondering if there's going to be an opportunity for a level 3 charging station in our municipality. I know you can't answer that now.
I don't have the answer. I will email council. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? At this time, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So at this time, with Mayor Nicholson back, I will turn the chair back over to you, if that works for you.
If I don't want it.
Thank you. Are we okay? Do we need a break? Are we okay? We'll take a 2-minute break.
And welcome back to the Township Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for January 15th. It's 5:21 and I am taking back over as the chair of the meeting. Thank you to the Deputy Mayor for covering for the last 2.5 hours. Appreciate it. I hope council wasn't too riley.
We're pretty good.
For you, that you successfully have gotten us pretty far down the agenda. Item number 10 is our next one, notices of motion. Is there any notices of motion going around the floor? Yes, I recognize Councillor Tabbert.
I'm not sure if this is the place for it, but there was a water issue in Beachburg. There were some mix-ups in what happened, and I was hoping there'd be a report tonight, but there's not. Any chance we can get a report on that break and let the people know what happened? I don't want it brushed under the carpet, because even though it's out there what happened, there's still people who haven't heard. And I mean, even as late as today, I got the comment that, oh, the fire department caused it. So I sort of want to get this cleared up, this issue, if I can.
Not exactly a notice of motion, but a request for a report. I'm going to ask the CAO, is that possible?
Yeah, maybe I'll just defer to our manager because I think he's been working with Aqua with respect to that. Thanks.
Yeah, so we did have a debrief with the health unit, township staff and Aqua, and staff are planning on February 5th to have a report.
Thank you.
Excellent, good question. Thank you. Councillor Moore, any notice of motion from you?
Not today,
No,
thank you.
Not good, and I don't see any others. Good, and I'm going to turn it back over to the CAO to talk about notices of motion.
Yeah, I think the clerk has prepared that we have 2 outstanding notices of motion. That's fine, I could cover it, Clerk Miller. So the one notice of motion, what I'm trying to express is that we're starting a new year, and I want to recognize that staff are aware that there's 2 outstanding notices of motion. One which came in December relating to Watchorn Drive and to bring forward a report in Q1 of this year relating to transportation and the like, namely Watershed Drive, and the second with respect to basic life support and an evaluation of the fire department providing that the BLS basic life support, and that came from Councillor Bell. So we're working on those still, and we're looking to report as soon as possible on those 2 items. Thanks.
And that's just we'll try to include that in our notice of motion, just as an update to recognize they're outstanding if there's new dates that are being available at the time. Good. No other comments. We'll move on to item number 11, which is correspondence. There are no items that require direction, but there are 5 items, 6, 7, 8 items that are for information. And some of these are worth discussing. For the first one, the water and wastewater rates mail out, I'm going to turn this back over to the CAO.
Yeah, I think it was important for us to just include this in the agenda package. So this piece of correspondence was sent with our water and wastewater billing, which was sent out, I think, in the later part of last week. But it provides an understanding to our residents with respect to the changes to the rate moving into 2025 and how that will affect their billing moving forward. So the bill they received, as I understand it, just this week, is the last bill for 2024, and this is in preparation of their next bill, which will be issued, I think, in March or the later part of March, early March rather. So this just explains that we've been able to reallocate some funds per recommendation from the Water Wastewater Task Force. The OCIF Council will be well aware of that as part of our 2025 budget deliberations, which has allowed us to, at least for 2025, see some stabilization in the increase to add a 3% increase. Recognizing that it is still 3%, but we've been able to lessen it in relation to previous years. So just a piece of memo with respect to that. We also did issue in the late part of 2024 a similar document. I think it was a bit more comprehensive. I think it was like 5 or 6 pages just with respect to water and wastewater. So when we issue these types of documents, we'll just attach them to the agenda as correspondence as well. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments from any members of council on that? If you hear any feedback, welcome any feedback from the community on those. Next item is the county council summary, and I won't speak to it, but it's available there. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Item number C is just a letter that the warden has written to Minister of Transportation about Highway 17 and its twinning. So I asked the clerk to include it in the package so you could see some of the advocacy that's happening on Highway 17. There is a County of Renfrew committee, ad hoc committee created specific for Highway 17, and I sit on that committee as well. So if we have any opportunity to be able to further this file, you'll hear about it through me. Good. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, just with respect to that letter, just going through it. So, am I correct in understanding that by that letter, there appears to be no activity planned for the next 4 years in twinning that highway? Did I read that correctly?
They're having some significant issues with access to property, is what my understanding is.
So it's not a funding issue per se?
What I can do is I can ask if we can get some kind of information package on exactly where that sits so it can come back. I don't want to hypothesize on exactly why the challenges is with access to the properties, but between myself and the CAO, we'll get a package for next council meeting.
Right, and just the first sentence of the second paragraph, our community was shocked and disappointed to see no mention of Highway 1720 in the 2024 economic statement in October. So the red flags obviously immediately started going off for me. And that's I understand that's a 4-year plan of 600 and some, I think it was 635 or 653 projects and no mention of Highway 17. So.
And it's also linked to some advocacy where we're looking at trying to get portions of it double lane between Petawawa and Chalk River.
Right.
So that is also part of it, but I can't get the details off the top of my head.
Right. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments on that? Okay. I'll come back with some more information on that one there for you, Councillor Armstead. Good. The next item is item D, which is the proposed challenges or proposed changes to the Municipal Accountability Act, and this is specific to the Code of Conduct. CAO, we're going to have staff comment on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would just highlight that the province is considering a new legislation regarding code of conduct for members of council. Our clerk is tracking the changes and new regulations when they will come out, and she'll distribute that to members of council for you to review. And there's typically a commenting period, so if you have opportunity to comment, that's at your discretion. Yeah. So the clerk will keep us posted. Thanks so much.
Perfect. The next one is just an update on the encampment response initiative, the business case, and you're seeing homelessness become a significant issue on the agenda of the provincial government, to the extent where almost all funds that go out, that are issued out by Municipal Affairs and Housing, they want some mention of how you're going to be applying it to homelessness encampments. This is a significant issue from the province. Good, and I'll skip down to the next one, which was G, is the increasing the home and community support for the Eganville seniors. In there, we've provided 2 letters of support for your information. The first one was one that we had signed off. I signed off on behalf of council back in September, thanking the Minister of Health for our delegation at AMO, reiterating the fact that we want an investment in seniors home support in our area, and we wanted that through the Eganville seniors. We've now gone to the point now where we're actually, Eganville Seniors is making a formal budget request to Ontario Health East, and enclosed is our letter of support for that request. And I included the Minister of Health one as a reference for them. Good. Councillor Trim?
And if I may, I think this is important because the federal money that we're sharing, a federal grant that we're sharing, I can't remember, with Eganville and Barry's Bay and Pequawkanong, it's going to run out in September. And so this is important that we're looking beyond, well, all the time, but beyond that for some stable funding for the programs that we are providing for seniors. Did I phrase that correctly, Mr. Mayor? Thank you.
that's exactly the situation. It's to ask Ontario Health East to basically take on that funding starting in September 2025. Good. Nothing else on that? Was there any other comments on any of the other items listed as information items on the agenda? Yes, Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, just one on H, Renfrew County MLS market activity. So despite what everybody may be thinking about housing sales in Renfrew County, it was up almost 10% over 2023 across the board. And again, I must address that we're not experiencing that whatsoever. So unfortunately, our region's broken out into the hamlets and villages that we are, so we're not just Whitewater region. So you see Beachburg down 10%, Cobden down 41%. So just to call out that other regions are experiencing growth and some significant growth. We are not, so hopefully we get more back on track in 2025.
Yeah, Councillor Tabbert.
Just on that note, but it does have Whitewater region, so is Cobden and Beachburg part of the stats, or are they skewing the stats by putting in Whitewater region?
Yeah, I think that's the rest of Whitewater region with all the villages and hamlets taken out. So you'll see Beachburg probably taken out of that total number, Cobden taken out of that total number.
We had asked the real estate board to come and speak to us about this so we could interpret it better. Is that still on our list?
Yeah, it's still on our list of delegations, yes. And I think we had asked them to see if they could incorporate the three together, and they didn't see, I guess for their metric purposes, weren't willing to do that. But in any case, we could add our numbers together and do it ourselves.
Just be nice to hear from someone who works with this table on a daily basis to give us an interpretation of it so that when we do receive it, we have some detail. But please continue to try to get the real estate board to come in virtually and speak to it quickly. Councillor Trim?
Yes, and further to what Councillor Olmsted was saying, I think that what you're doing, Mr. Mayor, with the CAO in trying to get childcare for our community is part of a strategy to have more development and more families moving into our area. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, and the clerk is just, yeah, please read it if you can, if it's worth reading, yeah. I can't see even with these new glasses.
I did reach out and ask them why they separated them in this kind of manner, and they just mentioned that it was based on member feedback to facilitate more precise searches. This makes sense given the size of Whitewater Region District and the need for more specific data in segmentation.
Perfect. So they're not going to group them together is what I'm reading or hearing. But yeah, I'd still like to have someone come in and speak to us about what the numbers mean or what the trends are. Good. Thank you for those comments, Councillor Trim. Anyone else? Any other item on the information items? Okay, seeing none, we'll jump into announcements, and I'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. No, I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Bell?
Just one, Forest Falls Outdoor Rink is open and operational. They've had the lights on there a number of nights over the last week or two, so if anybody's looking to get out for a little skate or play some shinny, that's available to you.
Thank you. Councillor Tabbert?
Yes, the Trinity United Church in Forest Falls is hosting a spaghetti dinner on Friday, January 24th at 5 p.m. And the Civitan Club is still selling their tickets for their 15th annual fishing derby, which is taking place on February 1st. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Olmsted.
I would say something this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our family, the Olmsted family, would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the EMS service, paramedics in Renfrew County, and OPP of Renfrew County for an incident that our family had on Thursday, December 12th. extreme amount of professionalism displayed by all, huge response to the incident. The expectation was that things were not going well and were perhaps not going to go well, but due to the professionalism of the respondents and the Pembroke General Hospital and the Heart Institute in Ottawa, a 100% recovery is expected with no after effects whatsoever. So again, our entire family would like to extend our gratitude, and we couldn't express a more thankful attitude towards them. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Olmsted. Councillor Moore.
Follow that.
Yes, I do. I'm happy to announce that Kyle Eady was awarded the CRS designation under the Certified Road Supervisor Program at the recent meeting of the Ontario Road Supervisors Certification Board. To achieve the certification, Kyle completed both sections of the T.J. Mahoney Road School and Public Works Leadership Development Program modules, which is local government leadership and supervisory and customer service, and has 3 years of roads-related supervisory experience. So thank you very much to Kyle for continuing his education with us, and we hope to have many more years with Kyle. And my second announcement is I would like to thank Mr. Cleroux and his team for the quick action on the water main break in Beachburg New Year's night. Was not a good scene when you turn on your tap at the bottom of the heap and you have no water. It means nobody else has water. So it was quite exciting, and I had numerous phone calls. So thank you, Mr. Cleroux, for your attention.
Excellent, and I'm just going to reiterate that, the whole team. But yes, I think I got a call from Councillor Moore at about 9:03, and I called our manager of Public Works at about 9:05, and he was already on the road. So this is exactly exactly the level of service we need for something as important as water, especially on January 1st. You've got company, you've got things going on. Thank you to the team. Good, Councillor Trim.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I too have two announcements. One is a breakfast this Saturday in the hall being put on by the WDRA. It's not called a big breakfast anymore. They're calling it a buffet breakfast, but that doesn't mean it's any smaller. So hopefully you'll have an appetite and come out to that. Secondly, it sort of goes along with some of the other comments that were already made, but I made a promise. While I was away, I got a text from Mel Langton, and he said that he and I had to have a coffee, and he had a list of things to talk about. So I got back. I did. Top of the list was he wanted me to make sure that I announced publicly how he and his family, how much they appreciated the service they got from the fire department during their time of property tragedy. And I promised I would do that tonight for him, but he had many kind words to say about the professionalism and the work ethic and of the firefighters that attended to their property. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so just in the last 4 speakers, we've had thanks to our paramedic response, thank you to our superintendent and our manager of Public Works and his team, Superintendent Kyle on his award, and now our firefighters. And that, to me, speaks volumes for what's been achieved here since our term started and well before that. And I just, CAO, that falls on your shoulders. Thank you for everything you and your team are doing. It's working. Good? Okay, announcements. I don't have any announcements, but I did have a mayor's address. Unfortunately, I have been beaten up by this Microsoft security. So I'm going to try to do it off the top of my head because it was online. I since our last meeting, December 5th, which was almost 5 weeks ago, I look back and it was surprisingly busy for me. I think I had about 10 meetings, plus 2 meetings at county, plus 2 more meetings with the Public Health Board. So somehow we fit in 14, and I think most of them happened last week, because last week was a blur to me. But there were some highlights. I think I was invited on behalf of council to the Lions Club Christmas dinner. The inaugural meeting for the county council happened on the 10th of December. Warden Peter Emo was re-elected for another year. Then on Wednesday, December 11th, we had 2 meetings. First one was with Manager of Public Works and I went to County Council and met with the Economic Development and Planning staff about our Timinco mine site, about the potential for future mining, about the potential for a future industrial park, and have asked them for some additional input. And again, I spoke to this before, but we're going to continue to build this file so we can get it to a point where we can actually present something to everybody in council, but we're still working it. And then we had another meeting with John, MPP Yakabuski's office with staff about our seniors' home support and how do we coordinate this request to Ontario Health East for additional funding to begin in September 2025. So that happened before Christmas. And this last week was all meetings about health unit standing up for its inaugural meeting, and county council meeting today was our first meeting of a committee of a whole. So what we do here, but with 17 different opinions, and we went through half of the budget, $250 million budget. We went through half of it today. So big. What's coming up in the future? Roma is right around the corner. And I know it's difficult for everybody to get away for Roma, but Whitewater is going to be represented by at least 5 of us, I believe, are planning to come. So good. We have 3 delegations and 1 meeting with a provincial utility. My number's wrong, isn't it? It's 5 delegations and a meeting with the utility?
4 and 5.
4 and 1? So 4 meetings with provincial ministries and 1 with the provincial utility. Again, the utility one, I'm sure the CAO is going to provide information, but the utility one is about the mine site and its potential as industrial park. Does it have the power, essentially? And then 4 other ministry ones, which the CAO will be distributing. So I think we're going to be able to share some of our concerns with ministries, represent our municipality at the provincial table this coming week. After that, the only thing I want to share with council is I'm disappearing for a week. I am leaving the country with my wife. So I have coordinated with the deputy mayor. She will be acting as mayor for that period in the event that there is any requirement for her to step in. Good, and that's been coordinated with staff already. Anything I need to add to that? No? Good. That concludes my mayor's address from memory. Yeah. Good. What's next on our agenda here? Bylaws. So the recommendation is, be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the January 15th, 2025 agenda be taken as read and passed. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there any final comments, concerns, or issues with any of the bylaws listed on our agenda here at item number 13? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next item is a closed session. CEO, just before I do that, we're going to need more than 15 minutes? Yes. Okay, so I'd like a motion to extend the meeting till 6:30. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Trim. All those in favor? And it's carried. The meeting will be extended till 6:30 p.m. With that being said, the recommendation for a closed session is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region will move into closed session at 5:45 p.m. to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the receiving of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. This is the 2024 legal claims update, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, Community Development Department, with the CAO Deputy Clerk remaining in the room. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Olmsted, seconded by Councillor Trim. All those in favor? And it's closed.